All right, so I am so excited to do this ladybug. Who wants to do the ladybug? It's so cute. I've been seeing ladybugs popping up in my garden, and it just made me. Oh, and I didn't realize I'm matching. I'm red like the ladybug tonight. So we're gonna do a number of different materials and stuff to get this in. Do need a larger brush to get our background color just kind of in. Even if you go ahead and had maybe a kitchen sponge, you just wanted to kind of rub the color in, it's just going to be whatever you have that's easiest to get the background color in. Also for our brushes, I'm going to use a medium flat brush, so I like this flat brush to be able to get in that, and also I have a little secret to get those circles for the ladybug dots. And then later, we're going to use a nice little skinny round brush. That's how we're going to do these nice little swirls. Okay, so those are brushes, but then our non-brushes, well, it's still a brush, but it's not normally one that people think about, is we're going to use a toothbrush to do a little bit of our splatter. That's always fun. Normally we've done this more for stars or for, I think we've done snow before, but being able to just do a color splatter is really kind of fun. And then we're going to also use some plastic. So you can use plastic wrap, you know, just like cling wrap and stuff. I'm just using the plastic that came around my canvas when I opened it up, just to recycle it. Today is Earth Day, so finding a way to reuse things that we already have. So for being conscious of that, it's not just going to be trash now, it's going to be part of our art project. And that is it. We are not going to be using yellow today. Yellow is the only color we won't use, but we will use red, blue, black, and white. So get those colors ready. And let's actually go ahead and get some blue out onto our plate. I've got my foam plate here.
Miss Tiffany,
Yes.
what do we need the plastic for?
We're gonna do some kind of some scrunching and some shapes on here, so it can either be like, yeah, like the cling wrap that you get and you have in your kitchen, or any plastic that you have.
Okay.
So yeah, anything that you can just take the plastic and kind of just crunch up, and we'll have that. That'll be part of how we get some texture in the background. So it's going to be about layers. That's the one thing we always learn about, is that with acrylic painting, it's always about layers. So when we first start, it's going to seem very flat, and then we're going to add another layer and add another layer. I'm going to get it closer so you can kind of see. You'll see there's some swirl from the plastic wrap. There's the red splatter we're going to use from the toothbrush. So there's lots of different textures that we're going to be putting in, and then when you step back and you see it all together, it all blends together. It looks really neat. So all right, I'm going to get my example canvas, demonstration one, I guess. Yep. And let's see, I'll get my water. So I did put out some blue. Last night I put out way too much. If you're doing, I'm doing an 8x10 canvas. If you're doing about this size, put out a little less blue, because we're going to mix it with white, which will actually extend our paint, so you don't need too much of it. But you can always add more. I hate wasting paint, and I'm still not great at that. That's still something I'm learning how to do better. So I'm also going to go ahead and get some white out. We'll use a decent amount, but again, we can always add more. So just going to have blue and white out right now. And I'm going to go ahead and grab my largest brush that I'm using to just get in this background color. So the background color is just kind of a medium blue color that we're going to mix. With my dry brush, it always needs to get primed and be nice and wet first. So I'm going to dip that in the water and drag off the extra on the edge of my cup. Make sure you're using a cup that you know you don't drink out of. We don't drink our paint water. Not smart, not smart. My mother, who likes to do watercolors, one time got her cups mixed up and was dipping into her drinking cup. And she's like, oh, she didn't drink from it, but she realized, and she said, well, I guess I have two water cups today. I said, yep, you got to be careful. That's why I use a very, very splattered mug. It looks very worn. It's paint on the inside. When you look at it, you don't want to drink from it anyway.
I reuse both of mine every time, and you can tell it's not a drinking cup.
When it gets well used, you can tell, and you don't actually want to drink from it. You're like, whoa, what is that? All right, so we're going to start, and I'm going to grab a little bit of blue, right, on my brush, and then I'm going to grab a decent amount of white. Yes.
I didn't get the healer paper scissors because I had to get the white scissors. What pink brush over here the first?
The biggest one you've got, the big one. A big flat one, okay?
Okay.
All right, so I'm gonna just, like I said, this is kind of just a medium blue color. And we're just gonna cover the whole canvas in this. It doesn't matter which direction you do this, because we're gonna add all of the texture in afterwards. So the main thing is that we're just covering up all the white on here. So you see, I'll grab a little bit of blue, don't need as much as we do the white, grab a big blob of white, and then I even just go ahead and mix it more on the canvas instead of wasting any space on my plate, right? And then as it starts to get too dry and it's not going anymore, I go in for some more paint. A first layer of paint on a canvas normally takes up a decent amount because our canvas will be what we say is very thirsty. It's going to absorb a lot more of the moisture of the paint. It's kind of sealing it in a little bit more. If you have a cheaper canvas like me, they probably didn't use as much gesso primer on the canvas, and it will take a lot. So just be willing to, that first layer, just keep putting the paint on. And so just putting this blue layer of paint as our main background, just to cover everything up. Also, if you want to go around the edges on this with this color, this is a good time as well. We'll just go ahead, basically coat the whole canvas in this blue. On my example, I didn't even have time to do the edges. I wish I had, so I'll probably want to go back later and do that. But it's nice when you already have your colors out and you can mix. It doesn't matter if there's some areas that are not perfectly all the same color. We're going to add variance to this anyway with some of our textured things. So if it's a little lighter in one area, a little darker as you're blending on the canvas, that is okay. Let's see, back and forth, back and forth. If you notice that if you start to go across an area that you've already done and it kind of sticks, it means it's already starting to dry. Acrylic paint dries really, really fast, which is good if you're wanting to do another layer. It's bad sometimes if you're wanting to blend and you just have to go over top of it again. And sometimes just working fast, we can still get some good blending in. So I'm going to go ahead, like I said, and get this edge ready. Alrighty, yeah. So just a fast back and forth, pretty easy to get our base color in. Yeah, and then I just like to turn my canvas on my easel to get the edges. If you've got it on a table, it's probably pretty easy just to let that hang off the edge of your table. So that's pretty nice. But you gotta get all four of them. I've forgotten some before. All right. Still going. as I'm doing the edge, I'm looking and making sure I haven't missed any spots on the main part of the canvas. A good, nice base coat of blue, just a nice blue. And the blue is really nice because it really is a nice contrast color to the red of the Ladybug. So that was why the blue was really nice to do at this point. I'm gonna go ahead and rinse out my brush. So I'm done, and I don't want it to, wait, I gotta show. I don't want it to harden like my one from last night that I was using. I forgot to rinse it, and it is hard as a rock. Like, I can't use this right now, but I can soak it in some rubbing alcohol, and it will start to dissolve the acrylic paint and soften the brush back up. So that is a little hint. I still do that accidentally. So no worries at all. But I will remember now to rinse out my brush a lot better. When I rinse my brush, actually, I'm not just swishing it in the water. I'm almost like I'm painting the bottom of my cup, and I'm kind of letting the bristles bend, but not smashing it. I'm still like doing almost like a brush stroke in the bottom of the cup, just to let the bristles move, and that will help release more of the paint in there. I don't know if I've ever given that tip before, but sometimes it just pops into my head as I'm doing it, and I explain that to you. If not, then I am so happy to pass on any tips to help your painting experience be better. Because that is kind of the whole goal of this class. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do, since we've got all of this blue, I've already got all of our edges if you wanted to. If not, that's fine. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab some plastic. We're going to grab this plastic wrap. And we are going to go in and kind of put in some texture. And this is kind of really kind of neat. I will warn you, if you don't like getting your hands messy, maybe putting on some gloves or just being ready to know that you're going to get your hands messy. If you're already messy, see, I've already even got a dot of blue. Like, you might get a little messy, so I'm going to roll up my sleeves. But we all just need the blue and the white still back out, so that's fine. We don't even have to put any new paint color out. And all we're going to do, I'll try to, well, I'll just roll that. I've got a weird little tab on this one. The main thing you want to do, so I want you to take the plastic and we're going to scrunch it up to where you got lots of little textures. I don't want it flat, like we don't need it smashed flat. We want to kind of crunch it up so there's like lots of little lines and divots, right? So like we're doing it in a ball like that, okay? And then you can kind of have a part that you're holding on to, and this part will have the paint that will touch, right? So what we're going to do first is we're going to come over to our dark blue. We're going to do just straight dark blue. So this is no mixing. This is, we're going to be taking it. So I'm going to take this, kind of like smash it in there. You can see I've got blue on there. It's okay if you even have some smooth spots, because I'm going to show you how we're going to put this on here. So in the past, we've done kind of more tapping, right, and doing a texture. This time what we're going to do is we're going to take it and we're going to follow this circular pattern. We're going to tap it and then twist and then pull up. So we're going to tap, twist, and pull, tap, twist, and pull. That's going to almost create almost like a flower or a circular kind of swirl motion. And that's going to go along with the swirls that we add. We're kind of got a lot of these circular themes that we've got going on. So I tried a couple of different things, and this is the one that seemed to work last night. If you want to watch me test it out first before you go, you can. But it's just kind of a tap, swirl, kind of a swirling, kind of spinning. You see that? And it kind of, I'm getting a little darker this time, which actually is kind of neat. I don't mind. Remember, we don't fight it when something does different than the original. We just go with it. So I'm going, and it doesn't hold a lot of paint, but I'm just going to kind of more do the outside. I'm not going to do the whole inside part. I'm going to leave this more open for when we put the ladybug. But I'm going to just go down here, take it and twist, twist, and twist. Like I said, you can see I'm having to go back for paint a number of times. You can even go back over some of the other places. But I'm just gonna go, we're gonna go all the way around and just kind of doing, so we've got these circles kind of. You see kind of, we've got this circle shape. It's kind of a new way to use this plastic. To me, they almost started to look like rose flower bunches. I don't know, for some of mine when I have a twist, I'm like, that almost looks like a flower. And yes, it does, you do have to grab a lot of paint, it feels like. Okay. Yeah, I kind of got a little darker right here, but that's okay, because the next color we're actually going to do is some white. And so that will help me tone down any areas that got a little dark. And we're going to end up painting the ladybug over top anyway. So I'm going to still use the same. Yeah, that looks good. I like that, Nova. Good job. Yes. So the next thing that we're going to do, I'm going to use the same plastic. I don't care if it ends up being light blue mixed a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead straight in with white on the plastic, and I'm going to do the same thing. And this is where it really kind of gets neat and textured. Look at that. And so I really was able to tone down those darker spots right there. Okay, so I'm going, grabbing some more white, and I'm doing this twist. As soon as I twist, I kind of pull it off of the canvas, right? And so we're kind of mixing with some of the blue that we just did. We're adding some highlights with the white. We're adding more circles. See how we got all these circles? And it just became a really neat texture I'd never tried before. So I was so excited. I was so excited to show you guys because it's fun. And I am almost used almost all of my white. I might even have to put some more out. So if you're like, man, I really used a lot. Yeah, this uses a decent amount of that paint. Let's see if I can get a little more. Come on, get to my corner. Almost, basically. I think I'm gonna have to get a little more white. I almost got it, almost. There we go. All right. And so leaving where we can see some of the white. Oh, you still there? Oh, some sort of update's trying to open up on me, and I don't want that right now. Okay, there we go. Come on, computer. We're painting here. All right, so there's that. Like I said, you don't have to do the center. If you do, it's fine, but I know that I'm going to be covering that up with the ladybug, so yeah, I'm not gonna, since it was using so much paint. And yes, I've got blue on my fingers. Look, we're a little messy. It's fine.
Will we need our plastic at any other point?
No, we don't need any more plastic. So that is good. I'm even just dipping my fingers in my water a little bit just to kind of wipe off some of the any excess of this paint on my fingers. So no, we do not need our plastic anymore. We've got that texture in. And honestly, I think this texture is better than my original, guys. So you're helping me step up my game. All right, next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna go ahead and put out some red. Again, you don't need to put out too much. You can always add. I'm gonna do a dollop of red. And we're going to, see here. We're going to pull out our toothbrush now. So we're going to actually do some red splatter. So the red splatter is really kind of neat. It's bringing some of the red color of the ladybug to our background as well. So that's where we get our toothbrush. This is where I also warn anyone, if you have devices, you don't want a bunch of little dots on them. I have got some, like a big piece of paper that I'm just laying on my keyboard right now, and I'm going to put my phone underneath a piece of paper because, I mean, it's not going to harm it. It's just going to be very annoying to try to sit there and scrape every little dot off. So protect anything that you need to, but we're also painting, and sometimes painting's a little messy. So, all right, so we are going to take our toothbrush that is only used for painting now, no more for our mouths, right? And I want to show you before I get paint on here, before I can splatter all over the screen. So what we'll do is we'll get our paint on our brush. We'll use our finger. Our finger's gonna get messy again. This is just a messy painting, but it's fun. And we're going to do some flicks like this. In the past, we've kind of done a little flick down, and that gives us a lot of little dots, which are great for stars. But we're actually gonna go more for splatter, kind of those longer ones. We want it to kind of look more like a splatter art versus like the little tiny dots. So this one we are just gonna kind of flick, and we're gonna try to get our paint actually pretty kind of wet, very loose. Even if you already have more wet paint, even making sure there's a little bit of moisture, that wetness is going to make sure that it kind of does those little streaks and splatters versus the little dots. So I'm taking my brush. My paint is a fairly thick paint. It's more of a student grade artist paint. So I'm going to take the water from my toothbrush and bring it over and swirl it. And you see beside my red to make a pretty watery red right here. So you can see as I'm trying to load up my toothbrush. It looks like I'm just brushing my teeth, but man, I've got some pretty bloody gums if that's brushing my teeth. That's bad. Okay, it's not supposed to look like that. But for painting, it's perfect. Okay, so I've got some red on there, and honestly, I'm even going to put down my example so I don't get any ones. And then I'm going to just use my finger to make the bristles bend and to release the paint. All right, so here we go. Kind of just giving it these long splatter looks, right? You'll be able to see yours obviously better than mine. We're not going for super big blobs, but that's fine too. Like, I kind of want some bigger ones in some spots. Yeah. So you can see I've got kind of red splatter over there. That's kind of cool. Don't need too much. Just that little bit is just enough to kind of bring in that red color. I'm gonna go ahead and rinse out my toothbrush because that is also something that can still dry and harden and not be reused. And I'd like to reuse this one. This is a pretty fine toothbrush for painting again, not for brushing my teeth. Okay, so we've used our plastic, we've used our toothbrush, we've used those fun things. We've got splatter on other things, you know. Hopefully not on anything that you didn't want splattered. I got some on the handles of my paintbrushes, so I'm just gonna rub those. And we're gonna move on to the next thing. Oh, I'll bring my example back. And this is where it will be handy to have a piece of chalk. Chalk is our friend. Chalk is our friend because this is how we get in the shape of our ladybug before we actually paint it in. So even with the splatter still kind of wet, it's not going to be a big deal for us to do chalk over this. Like, it's going to be fine. We might get a little red on our chalk, but like, it's not going to mess anything up. So the main shape of a ladybug is basically a circle, right? It's hard to do a perfect circle. It's not going to be a perfect circle, right? In fact, as I was even doing mine, I noticed that there was one part down here that it wasn't quite right, and I just added to it with paint later on. So getting an approximate circle is all that we need right now, okay? So actually, if we want to, we could try something. I haven't tested that. You guys want to try this? Because we could figure out by putting in our middle line and then do a half circle around each, we might be able to balance it out a little better. So let's do that actually. Sometimes we can think on the fly. So our middle line for the ladybug, I want it to go through the center of my canvas, right? And so that's going to be nice little diagonal line, right? So I've got one line right here. That'll be my center of where the wings are. So now from one end to the other, I'm going to just do a half circle, and then we'll do another half circle. And this might help us. Yeah, it's looking a lot rounder. Maybe this will be easier. If we do half a circle at a time, maybe it's a little less intimidating, right? We've got some more shape to add, so it's okay. All right, so then up here, we want to make sure that we're putting the head in. So the head actually comes into the circle, and then it goes from that same point, it goes out and around. So you see, so actually this part that we've got a line through, we're gonna end up painting that part black, but it does cut into our circle a little bit. And then down here at the end of my ladybug, which I want to do the line there, it does like a little V.
Miss Tiffany?
Yes.
My paint is still really wet, and even if I try to do the chalk line,
You can let yours dry a little bit more. That's okay, yeah. Okay. I know that you're dealing with the paper that's wanting to not absorb it as well as canvas, so it's okay. So at the bottom right here, like I said, we've got a V, and then our wings will actually end up going a little over the circle a little bit and extending because the main circle, but we'll add to that as we paint that in. But that is just the basic shape of our ladybug. We've got the center between the wings. We've got our two wing shapes. We've got the head shape right there. And then we've got the end right there. So. And as you can also see, because I didn't paint in the center, I did make sure that my ladybug was crossing over into the area that I did paint, right? So once I paint it in, it'll still be covering. I won't have any of the background just bare showing up. So the next thing that we need to do is this is where I'm going to grab my medium flat brush. I like this flat brush, especially because it helps me to go around and cut in the lines, like follow the lines, but then with the wide part, I can fill in the space, right? So when I paint, I'm going to try not to lose that center line. I'm going to try to not go over that. I want to leave that because we're going to do black over there. We're also going to do black inside our V and inside the head. So the wings are just this area right here. And I'm actually going to put out some fresh red. My other red has got too watery where we did the splatter, so I'm not going to use that. That'll fight me. I don't want to fight. I don't want to fight with my paint right now. So yeah, I'm going to come up to this line right here. So see how I'm using the edge of my flat brush. I love being able to just do a nice little line and then do nice wide strokes with the brush like that. So I can follow it with the edge and then fill it in. If you have a thinner red, we may end up having to do a couple of coats, but we're also getting a little bit of a textured look, which is kind of going along with the whole painting, right? So if we even see just a little bit of that blue, that's not bad. This is not an exact ladybug. This is just a ladybug representation. Hopefully with all of the happiness, and in some countries they're a very lucky bug. If you see a ladybug, they are very lucky. So I've got that one painted in, and I will do the next one. Like I said, I'm going to try to leave that line right there so I can see and remember where I want to put the black later on. Yeah, that way of tracing was a lot easier. I came up with that idea after I did the example, so I'm glad it worked because it feels a lot more symmetrical on this one. Sometimes breaking down drawing into smaller pieces makes it easier. I am not a drawer, but I know that we can do it. We can make it work. Oh yeah, it's gonna be cute. And like I said, with the wings right down here, it actually, I'll show you, it doesn't stay, it does extend a little bit farther out. So I'm actually going to kind of curve some out and kind of bring it back. As you can see, I'm kind of curving it out from that. That was our complete circle. So it's like a little half moon area just in that back part, just to make it more of like a wing shape and less of that circle. And so I'll do the same kind of thing over here. So just that little bit that extends it as the wings, you know, when ladybugs land their wings, you can still kind of see the shape of it. There we go. So it's not a complete circle, but the base of our thing is that. But see how it's just kind of hanging over a little bit. I'm going to pause our recording and let anyone catch up, or if people are waiting for paint to dry, this is the perfect time for you, if you're watching the recording, to see if you need to double check on anything or wait for anything to dry, and be right back. So some of you guys were doing a second coat of red. That's fine. If you want to do a second coat because you feel like it's not thick enough, you can go ahead and do that. And while that's wet, we can actually move on to another part of the canvas while that's drying. So you don't have to sit there and let that dry this whole time. Mine is dried just as we're sitting here, but it doesn't matter because we're going to do another part. So what I want us to do is we're going to grab, if you still have some white on your plate, great. I ran out, so I'm going to put some more down of white. Don't need a lot. Don't need a ton. And this is where we're going to grab our smallest detail brush, our tiny little small brush. We are going to do some swirls. So a great thing for swirls is to kind of start at a point and then just swirl around. Some people do better at swirling into the center, but you kind of have to know your spacing. I always feel more comfortable starting from the center and swirling out because then I know that I've at least got the center, I got room for it, right? Again, another tip for doing these really well and letting them flow is we're going to make sure that the paint is flowing well, which means I'm probably going to add some more moisture to my paint. So I'm going to dip in my water and kind of make sure it's more of a liquidy base paint. There are some people, they go ahead and buy separate liquid, more liquid paints. I find it's not worth the money for me, where I can just add a little bit of moisture to mine. Okay, so sometimes when I swirl, I get it all up on my brush. I don't want that. I'm going to twirl my brush because the only part that I'm going to paint with is the very tip of my brush, right? Just the very edge. And we're going to come over and we're just going to start adding in some swirls. Just swirls all the way around our canvas. So I'm going to come right here, put my brush down, and you can do to the right or to the left. It doesn't matter. You could switch it up. You could do it all the same way, whichever is more comfortable for you. So I'm going to go to the left on this one. There we go. And do a swirl. And I kind of like how it starts to fade out. It's not quite solid the whole way through. That's the other advantage to watering down my paint a little bit. I kind of, just like our textures in the background, we have some different textures. If it's just completely solid the whole way, I think it's almost too much. But and then some of them can kind of cross over each other a little bit. I'm going to kind of just start going around and doing some circle swirls. There we go. Whoop, kind of fell off the edge there, but that's okay. Speaking of edge, also you can do like where you have part of a swirl, like it's falling off of the canvas, and you can just do parts of it, right? But yeah, we're just going to go around while our red is drying and fill in. Oh, that one got a little close, but that's okay. Sometimes, yeah, when we get closer where we're having a little less room, trying to do smaller ones or maybe ones that are not too close to the edge will be better. There we go. You notice I keep dipping into my paint because, again, we're only painting with the tip of our brush, which paint runs out very quickly off of the tip of your brush. So if you find yourself having to go back for more paint, that's fine. That is good. That means you're using the right amount. I like how at the end of mine it just kind of fades out. Ooh, that was a nice big swirl. I like that one. Maybe those kind of connect a little bit. I'm gonna go the other direction over here. Maybe this one's a smaller one, the other direction. Oh, it looks like an E. Okay. And
A
so
lot of my swirls look like an E.
or they look like an E. It's probably if they connected at the center. Sometimes just trying to make sure that you kind of leave it more open as you go around in the center. Will make it look a little more like a swirl, but it's okay. So you're seeing your canvas, you're seeing how it's filling up your space. I can't tell you you need to do 12 swirls. No, you need to do as many as fills up your space. So I feel like I've got more room, even though it's a different canvas. It's fitting differently this time, and that's cool. So, and I like the swirls. They're kind of fun. They're really fun. Maybe I come in, I do just a couple little ones, barely any paint. Almost like there's shadows of swirls. And I feel like that goes really well with the texture that we did with the plastic wrap around. So I am going to say I am done with my swirls. Rinse out that little brush. Definitely don't want that to dry out. It'll just turn into like a hard toothpick, which is a lot harder to paint with. And see why we don't really need much white for this. You don't end up using very much.
Yeah, I got a big blob of white paint.
Yeah, it's okay. You can always put out more, but it's okay. It's always a learning process for paint management. All right. As you're finishing up your swirls, I'm going to go ahead and get our last color out and get some black onto there. Again, I'm not going to put tons out. I can always put out more. I'm telling you as well as myself because I don't want to waste the paint. And I want to come back and grab my medium flat brush again because I think that's going to give me a little more control in filling in the ladybug, the parts of the ladybug, the head, the center, and then I'll show you a special way that I love to do circles. Because I'm sure you're worried about doing those dots. Don't be worried. We got this. We got this. Okay, so making sure that that brush is damp. And then I'm going to come over to just the straight black. Just straight black right here.
Using our medium brushes?
What?
Are we using our medium brushes again?
Yep, the medium flat brush.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure, sure. And then I'm just going to go ahead and follow the outline that I did for the head. Right? We use that straight lines. And then fill that in. Color that solid black. So any parts where you can still see some of the chalk, do not worry. We'll be able to clean that up afterwards on the edge and stuff. So I know sometimes it still looks a little like, oh man, I didn't get it all. No, you got it. You painted it in. The chalk was just a guide. We're more concerned about where the paint is right now than where the chalk is. Now, I will say, if you can still see chalk, that means when you wipe it off, you'll see just the color up underneath. So in some spots, like right here, I'm going to make sure that I'm looking that it's connecting to the red, right? That's kind of more important right now. Connecting to the red and filled out. So that's the head part right there. And then I'm going to do the center black line, one straight down. And then this part right here, I'm going to curve. And fill that in with black as well. If at any point you feel like the medium brush is too much, it's too big for you to get where you want, you can always switch to a smaller brush. That is fine. It's absolutely, absolutely fine. So sometimes you have to choose the tool that works best for you. I saw that mine was not connecting to the red very well, so actually I'm going to just add a little bit more red on mine right there. That's all I'm doing, because I just noticed that my head looks a little disconnected. It's probably not a good thing for a ladybug to have a disconnected head. I think that that's called a dead ladybug instead of a live one. I'm going to make sure that this is a cute live ladybug with a connected head. Here we go. Sometimes it's just about adding back in what you need. Okay, there we go. Looking fine, looking fine. All right, then the next thing that we're going to do is we will do those ladybug dots. So this is where I really do like using this flat brush, because what I can do is we can put the paint on there. I can touch this to the canvas, and then I can just turn it. And when I turn it, the width of the bristles are going to fill in a circle for me. Instead of me trying to draw a circle and fill it in, I'm just going to let the brush do the work for me. Touch it down and then twirl it. And that's going to give me my circle shape. So here we go. I'm going to get paint all the way across it. I'm going to come right here, and I'm going to turn and kind of just swirl it around. And I can use that edge to make a circle, just like that. And however, I mean, we're going to do, let's see here, about five dots. So depending on the size of your ladybug, you may end up having a few more, but it's the ladybugs don't have tons of spots. They've got very large, distinct dots or spots on their back.
Dots on each wing?
What?
Okay.
Yep. So just gonna go around. It's almost like you kind of do a half circle and then finish the other half circle. Then kind of swoop like a little arc like that, and then come back around the other way. Oh, I know what it reminds me of. It reminds me of like when you use a protractor and you to draw circles. This is like probably dating me. The kids probably don't even know. Or one part would be touching, and then the other part would be doing a circle. I'm doing that with my
I think we still actually have those in this house somewhere.
Yeah, so I'm keeping the center of my paintbrush kind of in the center of where my circle is, and I'm turning the other part of my brush.
But there used to be a sharp thing that you put down, so it was
Yes,
easier.
I don't know. They were giving us like dangerous implements at school. I don't know. I don't understand. And I never found like it was really. I mean, I would draw circles, but really, don't think I've ever used that utensil or tool outside of this classroom in my
There
life.
are lots of things you don't use outside of the classroom.
Exactly. I'm grabbing a little more black. I'm very proud of myself. I didn't put too much out, but I actually did put a little extra back on my plate and grab some more to finish out my spots on the other side. So let's see here. Do another one this way. Do another one here. like I said, maybe at like 4 to 5 spots. Some of these I may end up going back and adding a little more size to. Circling. Now, I don't know if a ladybug has perfectly symmetrical dots like a butterfly's wings a lot of times is very symmetrical. What happens on one side happens on the other. So we will just take our creative license and just say that it's got enough spots for what it looks like and we like it. And that's all. But maybe someone's going to go do some research now about, do ladybugs dots, are they symmetrical? Are they the same number on each wing, or are they unique? That would be interesting. I like finding out stuff like that. Okay, now I've still got a little bit of black on my brush. I don't want a ton, but what I'm going to do is come in and I'm going to make sure again I've got those different parts kind of covered, but I'm going to go and I'm going to start adding just a little bit of detail, a little bit around the edge of that. I'm going to just use kind of light pressure and kind of go and do like some little streaks. Can you see? I'm doing a couple little streaks just at the bottom of the wing to kind of shape it a little bit. Like that. I'm trying to go light. If I've got too much, I can always go back and cover up with a little bit of the red again. But with the black on my brush, I'm going to kind of give the wings a little shape and kind of continue that rounding that we're doing. You see how now the wings look like they've got a little bit more shape to it. It's not an exact thing. It really, because remember, this is a representation of a ladybug, it's kind of more abstract still too, so it's okay. Can you see that? Okay, good, good, good. I think we just got a couple more things and we're basically done. Yes, yes. And so like I said, if you got too much of this black, maybe you don't really like that you put too much in one area. Like maybe you didn't like this. This is where, go back, grab some red, and you can just go kind of right back over top and kind of blend it back out. So see, maybe you don't like a certain spot. You went a little too crazy. You're like, oh, it's a big black streak and I messed up. No, you didn't. You're fine. You're absolutely fine. There's no messing up here, remember? We're just having fun. You guys are making a cute ladybug. I mean, how can you be sad when it's so cute? So cute. All right, I'm gonna rinse out my brush. We're gonna do, yeah, just a couple little detail things, which really, we're basically done. Okay, last little bit is we're going to kind of add a little swirl detail to our spots that we did, okay? And that we're actually going to be using red. So I'm gonna get my small little detail brush again. And I've already got some watery red from where I did the toothbrush, right? So I'm gonna dip into that. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go, I know your spots are probably still wet. That's okay. Actually, that'll kind of help us. We're gonna kind of go for kind of a smear kind of mix. But I'm just going to, instead of doing a swirl, I'm just gonna kind of do a circle. Just a circle kind of around in there. And you can see part of the red, it's kind of blended some black. It's just making it so it's got an extra detail in there, but it's not exact. So I'm just taking the red and just gonna go around and make a circle within the spot. You see that? That's breaking it up. It's adding some detail to it. I don't mind if it's not even a complete circle or it's kind of blending in with the wet red. It's just kind of just adding just a little bit. So again, just finishing more of that circle theme we've got going. I've got lots of circles tonight. I like all the circles. But it breaks that up, right? It kind of makes it seem like it's got more dimension to it. I can even, with a little bit of my red, I'm going to have to rinse that off. I've got black on there. Sometimes you don't know until you reach for another color. I can go and grab even just a little bit of white, maybe a little bit of white with a little red, and maybe I'll even add like a little bit of detail, a little bit of white streaks on a couple of them, maybe. Like that. Just a little. These are these little details that we add at the end. Make some things pop. Makes them stand out. Right. And then the very last thing is we need some antennae. Antennae, is that what they call them? And this is just going to be a very light blue, actually. Mainly white. Mainly white. But I am going to make it more of a lighter white blue. See how it's very, very, very light blue. And it's just going to have 2 points as if I were putting eyes, I'd probably go dot, dot, and that's where my antenna is going to start, and it's just going to streak up. And just go right there. It's going over any swirls that we had. So that's fine. Here we go. I'll rinse out my brush. Does anyone have any questions? I know at the very end, I just added a couple little swirls and streaks and stuff and didn't maybe explain as much, but hopefully I had you close enough you could follow me and see where I was putting them, just to add some texture to our ladybug. Oh, I love it. Nova, that's awesome. That's really awesome. Even on that paper, I'm so glad that worked out for you.
Thank you.
Oh, good job, Kiki. I really like it. Are you glad it worked out once we start adding the layers, right? Oh, and if you're doing the recording, thank you so much, and I hope that you join us for whichever thing we're gonna paint next time. I don't even know, but I'm excited and I'm glad you got to join. And if you do finish this painting and want to put it up, I'd love to see it. And I hope you have a great day.